are. Well, good morning on our Palm Sunday morning, and welcome to Hordle and Tiptoe online service. You will probably, most of you will recognize my guests, plural, this morning. The most guests that I've had at any one time. One occasion or two occasions we had two. So this is something new for all of us to be holding a group discussion. I want to look at the concept of faith. And so I've invited 5 people from our congregations to come and talk to us a little about something that means something very special about their faith to them, and that can perhaps help all of us. A brief introduction, because I know that some of you may not know all the faces immediately. As I sit here, anyway, top left-hand corner is the Reverend Carolyn Petts. Carolyn mainly is linked to Tiptoe. And of course, Jill Morris, I'm sure most of you know, is our church warden. Mark and Bryony Strode. Bryony, you'll recognize immediately from all her wonderful music every Sunday. Mark, bit like me, in and out, doing different things, and that. Lovely to have you guys with us. And then Millie, someone I know reasonably well, I think you all know, Millie Pickburn, who, along with Ruth, looks after the all-age worship and an awful lot to do with the children in the background and that. So, Carolyn, could I just ask you, if you could start for us, faith, something that is really meaningful for you that you can share that will be really helpful for us. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, I'm thinking about faith, and I only have one point of view, and that comes from me and my experience. And I'm very aware that everybody else has got a different kind of experience. So what I say doesn't mean it's the same for you. But I will just give you a little outline of how I came to faith and what it means in the present time. I thought I was a Christian by default almost. When I was a child, I was brought up as a Christian, and I went to church from then on. So I did think I was a Christian, but I was challenged when I was 33 by somebody who said to me, "You've got to know you." And I had to admit that I didn't really know that I was a Christian. I'd accepted God, but I didn't really think I'd accepted Jesus Christ. And anyway, that time, I think through the prayers of the people surrounding me, the people at the church, I did give my life to Christ. And I know that's not an experience that everybody has or is faced with, but it was my way of knowing I'm a Christian. So after that, things did seem different, but it wasn't all plain sailing, and I did drift off, and God brought me back. I
call that the Jonah experience, Carolyn.
Jonah, yes. I was like a squealing piglet. I did not want to come. But he got his way. And
he did with Jonah too.
So that led to God having kind of plans for me. And if you're committed, then you can't really say no. Yeah. I did know God and Jesus Christ more deeply. I didn't say no, and I learned a lot about the Holy Spirit from then on. I know they're one person, but presented to me, it seemed like that was a progression in a kind of a way. And after a long time and lots of events and little moves, I accepted a call to ordained ministry. I think faith it's different from which side you're on. And I can remember feeling worried about it. and feeling I'd probably have to give things up or something like that. Well, sometimes that's true, but actually the pluses are so much greater. And
Wonderful.
I think that's the what I learned about trusting God for my well-being and for my future. And I just have to say, I do feel hugely supported, and twists and turns here and there, but I certainly feel God has been with me. I must admit, retirement is a challenge because the structure.
Jill, you don't know what retirement is, do you?
Not yet, no.
I don't quite know. There's not the same certainty about what you should or shouldn't be doing. You've got choices all along the way. And so day by day, I'm making choices, and a lot of it is about time.
And
What
based on
does
faith.
God want me to be doing? What is right for me today? And those kind of things. Coronavirus hasn't helped.
No.
And I feel it's both those things have made me more uncertain. And I have been challenged to find God through this time. It comes and goes. Mood swings, I suppose, are part of it. And
perhaps that's something that we can come back to, linking to the coronavirus in a well. It's really good that you brought that up, Carolyn. That's really good. Thank you. I'm just wondering whether, Brian, can I just move to you? I wondered. Faith, I mean, you've been through a lot of challenges in recent years. I know you reasonably well, and I don't want you to talk about anything that you don't, but I think that it's fair to say that you have. And I know that some wonderful things have happened to you, but for you, Faith, what has faith meant to you, and how did you come to faith?
So quite similar to Carolyn in some ways, actually, because I was born into a very faith-filled household. My dad is a vicar within the church in Wales, and always was throughout my whole life. So I have always had a faith in God, and I never really questioned that. Although certainly I sort of probably didn't really take it on to a degree where I sort of maybe tried to live without God's guidance at points, particularly when I went off to university. And it wasn't until in my mid-20s where actually I really understood what faith is about. And for me, the verse I always come back to in terms of my understanding of who God is and where I lay my faith is in the Psalms, and it's around the fact that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think in terms of, you mentioned some of the challenges I've experienced, and they have been in physical health, mental health, and in relationship, and in all of those things, coming to the understanding that I am fearfully and wonderfully made by a loving creator God who cares for me. If you can hold on to the faith in that, then you're okay. You will you have faith that you will get to the other side of it. And I think certainly in my mid-20s, that was the sort of journey I went on, and enjoy a far deeper, greater faith now, knowing that I am the child of a very faithful God.
That's wonderful, isn't it? Excuse me. Jill, I know that again, you can't go through life without challenges, and you face some challenges along the way. And yet, I mean, you just radiate faith to all of us. Faith and duty to God and the love of God in your life. What comments would you have?
Yeah, well, again, my background is fairly similar. I was born into a loving Christian home, and our parents gave us every opportunity to follow our own way in the Christian life. They encouraged us to go to beach missions and Christian camps, which we did a lot all during our young life and our teens. And so I can only be very grateful for all the Christian background and friends and Christian teaching that I had all the way through those early years.
And Joe, what does your faith mean to you now?
My faith now, I wouldn't be without it, because as I look back over some very rocky times in my life, I can honestly say it's my faith that sustained me through it. Just to give you one example, I mean, my life I thought was all planned out for me, and I was going to be happily married and, you know, so on. But the guy I was going to marry was killed in an air crash, which took the bottom out of my life. But it was my faith in God that really pulled me through, and all his promises to be with me and that he had got a better plan for my life. I didn't always agree with him, Mark, because I had my own plans.
That doesn't come as a surprise, Jill, to any of us that know you. There we are. Moving swiftly on.
I certainly don't agree with all God's plans, but he's given me a pretty good life, and I've had some wonderful experiences, although there have been some big tests on the way.
Right. Yeah.
But faith is really reaching out, believing in Jesus, reaching out and accepting his gift of salvation, and to be so conscious of his presence and his power with you every single day.
Yeah, thank you.
And having this wonderful close relationship with somebody, you know, you can't see, but you just know that you're there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That
Mark,
is what's me through.
Sorry, yeah. Mark, can I come to you now? I mean, you gave at the beginning, just under 12 months ago, you gave that wonderful, powerful testimony in that first online service. I know something about your faith background, and obviously knowing your family. Would you like to sort of perhaps broaden out a little bit on what your faith means to you personally and how it's helped you?
Of course, yeah. So there's a bit of a theme here, I think, amongst this group with you know, sort of growing up in a family that were filled with faith, a Roman Catholic church. But at the age of 18, I walked away. I made a conscious decision to walk away from faith, to walk away from God.
Wow.
I felt I didn't need him or religion or faith in my life. And it wasn't really until about 7 or 8 years ago that I walked into Hordle Church, and one of the first sermons that Paul Taylor, the then vicar, gave was around if you've come here looking for religion, you won't find it here, and you can turn right round and go back out the door. And something struck me there. Yeah. Very Paul. And that really hit me, because he then followed with the word that actually faith is about a relationship. Faith is a relationship with a God that we can't see, but we just know, we believe is there. And the only way I can describe it is over the last 7 years, it's not always been easy in faith, but just knowing that I have access to a relationship to God, somebody who's there ever present 24 hours a day, whenever I need him, has filled my life with incredible joy and happiness. But it's not easy. And my son said to me about 2 years ago, said, "Dad, what's it like being a Christian?" And my initial response, I thought, was going to be, "It's great, it's wonderful, it's fantastic." And actually my response to Oliver was, "Do you know what? It's hard work. It's really hard work sometimes being
very honest, isn't it?"
Yeah, because I think, you know, everyone expects us to have all the answers, and we don't. Yeah. But knowing that I have God in my life, I don't have to have all the answers. because God has the answers. And to use an analogy, sometimes when I struggle with faith or I have a small faith crisis, I liken it to a glass-bottom boat going over a beautiful coral reef. But sometimes that glass gets green with algae, and you can't see the coral reef. And sometimes in prayer, it's just about reminding yourself just to clean that glass.
Right.
That the beauty of faith and religion is there, and it's just an innate knowledge that God is ever present, and that just keeps me going and makes my life complete.
That's great, yes, and that analogy of the glass bottom boat, to Carolyn obviously tinge on it just now, in relation to coronavirus, and that's put a lot of algae on a glass boat. We can just come, Millie. Yes, we've known each other a rather long time, haven't we? So now, say whatever you like, parental upbringing or whatever, but your view on faith and for you, what does it mean?
Yeah, I think the same. Brought up in obviously an environment, a Christian environment, went to a Christian school, and I suppose as a child didn't really know what that meant. I'd say I was a Christian on forms, and if I was asked, I'd say I was a Christian, but probably didn't really know what that actually meant until I went travelling after university and got, had amazing experiences and met different people and started thinking about what it actually meant. But probably it didn't really hit me until sort of got married, came out here, lived in the village and went to church. And I can't really remember what brought me to church, but probably God saying, come on, I've put you here for a reason. And that was sort of 13 years ago. And sort of sat there and thought, I want to get to know what this is about a bit more. And, I can tell you roughly where things are in the Bible, but I want to know a bit more about how that equates to life. And, as my job as a nurse, you're dealing with all sorts of strange and wonderful things every day. And it's quite nice to know a little bit more about what faith means. And I suppose the friendship and the support and the love that I've come across during my faith journey is just overwhelming. And I think through the really, really tricky times that we've had, it just brings us closer. And I think just learning about prayer and learning how to open your heart to God and just say, I want to follow you. I'm not sure how to, but can you just steer me in the right direction? Because sometimes you do feel completely like you don't know how to be a Christian sometimes. I think, I've had times where you sat in church and listened to a sermon and thought, but I don't know how do I feel loved, how do I feel overwhelmed by God's glory, and how do I feel that? Like, I want to, but I don't know how to. And sometimes it's as simple as just saying, here I am. Can you give me a nudge? Because I'm feeling a bit sort of lost. And he does, doesn't he? He sends that little message, however that is. And often it's not until you look back on a situation and think, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. And at the time, maybe you were going off on your own little path thinking that was the right plan. And he just goes, no, this way's better. And I think it's just about opening up and trusting that he does have that plan, and it's much better than any plan we could ever imagine. But like everyone said, it is hard at times, and I think this last year's been very, very hard for people.
Well, particularly with your work, obviously, particularly you and Bryony, both of you. Yeah.
It's certainly had its challenges, and I think it's quite interesting. I suppose I don't beat a banner saying I'm a Christian, talk to me, but it's interesting when you start talking to patients and people in your life about faith, and actually it's quite a common theme with people that they want to find out more about it and they are interested. And I think we're all developing and evolving with it, and some days you feel a really good Christian and other days maybe not quite so much, but it's about praying for keeping moving forward and supporting our youngsters coming through and hopefully filling them with that idea that they want to be part of it and learn more about it. So it's an ongoing journey.
I mean, you bordered on there the challenges now, coronavirus. And Carolyn, can I come back to you, because you mentioned coronavirus and the challenges being, and I felt that you were being wonderfully delightfully honest, because you are an ordained minister, and the perception is that, wow, off you go, and everything is hunky-dory, your faith is 100, you're rock solid, everything is there. And you are so honest in what you were starting, and I'm sorry if I stopped you, but I particularly wanted to come back to you to just, if you could just a little bit expand on your feelings about coronavirus, because you spoke about doubts and you spoke about ups and downs, and this is the real Christian life. And Mark, you did, we all have along the way. So Caroline, can you just talk just a little bit more about your feelings in that area?
Yes, well, I identify with Mark and what he said about having the answers. That's one thing. I don't feel as if I've got the answers, but I'm seeking to know and to exhibit, even in spite of me. So that's one little thing that resonated with me. And the other is having doubts and being confused. I'm encouraged because some of the books I've read said that's okay, you know. You don't have to sort of take your pulse all the time and wonder if you're going to survive if you have doubts. You just seek God and try to get closer to Him. And yes, I mean, I do like to talk to God as a friend at times. I can't say I've done very much of it, and my prayer life is minimal, but it is the thing that's kept me focused. And I have wanted to get closer to God because I knew the need I had of God. In every respect, home life, myself, and in church life and meeting with people and the family and all those things. I know there's only one place to go, and that is to come close to God and talk to Him. But I've struggled, and the first way I think I would have been helped is by having regular Bible readings. And I might not have wanted to do it, but I put it first in the day. I have read it and not taken in a word, but sometimes there have been really bright moments, an answer, a little quote or something which ties in with something I'm struggling with. So those things just go on. That's how
spirit-led moments, aren't they, Carolyn?
Oh, it's just somebody speaking to you and saying, yes, it's okay, I'm here, you know, and this is...
Can I recommend another? We have in this parish, the wonderful parish church magazine, Link, and there's a wonderful series, Dear God, written in there. I have a feeling perhaps we should recommend it. You are that person, aren't you?
I am, yeah.
It's wonderful. I love Dear God. Thank you so much for that. Jill, I think you wanted to come in, did you? Yeah.
Well, to go on from what Carolyn was saying, you know, when you suddenly come across a verse or a passage which is from the Bible, which you feel is just for you at that moment, because as you all know, earlier on this year, I was very surprisingly diagnosed with cancer. So unexpected. I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah, how dare it?
And during coronavirus, I had nobody to discuss it with, nobody to share it with. And yet I had the most incredible sense of peace over it. All right, there were panicky moments. You know, what if? I went through all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? I'm on my own. I won't know what to do. And then I came across a verse that said, I have made you, I will carry you, I will sustain you and rescue you. And almost from that moment, I had amazing peace about the whole thing. And as you all know, I mean, it was amazing the way I was treated. I had the operation and made a recovery just so quickly. But it was, I think, having been so assured by God's promise and a real sense of his peace, quite apart from the prayers of all my friends. and the support I had from them once they all knew.
Yeah. So there's two
And so
factors there. There's
these
God's
verses
promise.
just make-
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Wonderful.
your faith, and also the prayers. Can I come, Millie? Can I come to you and just mention, we're talking about Bible now, and I mean, obviously I have the advantage, as Jill and Carolyn, and we've been around the Bible longer than the three of you. I always say that I'm very, very blessed indeed that it's been around me in my life all the way through. But Millie, coming as a younger person into the Bible, how would you say, if someone was starting to look at the Bible now and thinking, what is it all about? Where would I start? What would you be your advice to someone?
I think there's all sorts of Bibles in short periods of time on apps and all sorts of things like that. I've got an app on my phone that I like to just read a daily message, and I think personally it's a bit overwhelming just giving someone a Bible and saying, I'll see you when you finish that. I think it's more appropriate to just dip into the bits that suit you. And I think the apps, if you like that sort of thing, are great because you can actually type in specifics, so anxiety or worry or anything like that, and it will come up with passages. And I think then once you start, it's like reading an amazing story, isn't it? It sort of then leads you somewhere else, and so I think those have been really helpful to me personally. I think home groups as well. Obviously we've got our Thursday home group, which hopefully we'll be able to start up again, and that's been just amazing because it's different people's experiences coming together in a non-threatening, very, very supportive environment where you can explore the Bible together. And obviously the Bible Society have got sort of, the breakdown of the Bible. So there's lots of different ways that you can get into it depending on how you learn. But I think the daily messages and the daily readings that you can do just from your phone, they're just great because like Jill says, they just speak to you. Sometimes you almost sort of look behind you thinking someone's reading my mind here. But it's lovely, and that it's a message from God, and it's talking to you. But I think it's also thinking how many other people are feeling exactly the same right now. So how many other people are sitting there thinking this is tough, or actually this is good.
How do you get into it?
Reassuring, isn't it, to know that other people are feeling the same? Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, you're all being so honest, and I hope really that it is. I mean, Mark, you reminded us of Paul, and it was a classic Paul from time to time. He always said that whatever you do, don't get religion. That'll be the end of it. And various connotations on that. And now Barnstable have got the benefit of that, but we remember it wonderfully, and it's faith that we're looking for, and that's rooted in the Bible. And as you say, can I come to you two now, Mark and Brian, in the Bible, etc. And how can I ask you if you find that is a great support to you as you go about your lives, as you face the challenges that you have? And again, coming perhaps, Brian, I guess that you would have known the Bible all your life. Mark, I think that perhaps from what your mum has said, there wasn't that much Bible teaching in the sort of Christian upbringing that you had. It's not no comment about your mother and father, but it just the background. So for you, probably the Bible is a relatively, really getting into it in depth. And I know you're part of Pat and Ed's home group. What does it mean to you?
So again, I'm going to be really honest that there are times where I find the Bible almost like a ball and chain that I find sometimes drags me down, and that's being totally honest. There's a feeling that I ought to read and I ought to know the Bible, and sometimes you go to church services or new wine celebrations, and you see these incredible academics or people that are so filled with faith that know the Bible inside out. I almost feel like a poorer Christian for it. So I guess if anyone's sort of watching this that is struggling with the Bible, you're not alone. It is a book, as Millie said, sometimes that just calls on you for certain moments. And I've certainly found real help with the apps. So the Bible in 1 Year app, or there's another app that literally just sends you one verse a day. And for me, that is almost enough of a pull sometimes for me just to open the Bible. But I don't do it as often as I should. Sometimes I feel incredibly guilty and not knowing or reading the Bible or being able to feedback or dictate verses off pat like some people can. But knowing it's always there, knowing there's a Bible in the house that I can reach to is incredibly comforting. And there have been moments where I've opened it, and like Millie said, it's almost like someone is reading your mind, because you'll open it at a page which is so relevant, and you actually feel that faith and God talking to you through it.
Franny, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm quite a book person, so I've always had quite an interest in the Bible and trying to understand its context, and quite enjoy those kind of discussions with people where you sort of really, it can be very, very easy as a Christian to have that challenge based on the Bible. Well, actually, the Bible says this, so how can you have faith in a God where there's passages of the Bible where people have sort of got 20 wives and throw stones at everybody? It becomes really challenging for people, doesn't it? And I think that can be very, very difficult, but I do also constantly find joy in reading the Bible to a point where I can understand what it's saying and put it in its context and be able to advocate to others about what God is saying through this book. I have a journaling Bible, so it's got note lines down the side of both pages, and certainly at times prior to the pandemic, where you're sort of in home groups, that gets filled with scribbles, and there's bits of the Bible that I've kind of got huge circles around and lines drawn all over and little notes, and they're the bits that I keep coming back to, and there's passages that are just so important that I can read them again and again and still just really feel the power of them.
You get a different interpretation, a different message often from the same passage, don't you? Do we all find that, I think? Yeah,
definitely find that. And I think that's where I was thinking about this when Carolyn was talking earlier around how important it is to be surrounded by faith-filled people, because when your faith is then lacking a little, actually you end up riding on the faith of others, don't you? And I know for myself, when the one time I didn't doubt my faith, but I really struggled to talk to God because I wasn't really sure where to start, and that was when I was very physically ill in hospital. But that didn't really, I was at peace with that, because I knew that there were people with absolute faith that God would bring me through that period of being in hospital, and they were holding me in that faith for that time. And similarly with the Bible and how you apply it to your life, is that actually people who have a different interpretation of a particular passage because it's had real relevance to their life can give you that other reading of it and really enhance your faith through understanding the word as you go through life and have different experiences and meet different people and build really close relationships in faith together, because you're all bound together in faith in the same God.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we're moving into Easter week now, the time when this recording is presented after our Palm Sunday service. And there are a lot of stories there of challenging faith. I mean, there's Thomas the Cross for a start, the disciples, everyone running from the cross. And we go through that the Bible. Easter week is a high, Palm Sunday is quite a high, and then the whole thing starts to go down quite badly, and then reaching obviously Maundy Thursday evening and Jesus' imprisonment and the trial, etc., and the crucifixion, the absolute pits, the lowest possible place. And a lot of people there lost their faith, they deserted him, etc. And then of course Easter Sunday, which is what then divides the New Testament and the Old Testament. It sets up the New Testament, the risen Christ. Can I just sort of jump ahead to there just before we finish this and ask anyone if you have any particular feelings about the resurrection, the fact that come Easter Sunday, we will be celebrating the risen Lord. This is God's Son. and the New Testament is born, and Christianity as we know it now. Has anyone got any comments they'd like to make on that?
I always enjoy seeing the reading of the humanity of the disciples during that time. I mean, there they were doubting, not knowing what had happened. Some of them were angry. Mary went to see what's happened. She went to the tomb and then was surprised by what she saw. And I think they reflect all the emotions that we all go through as we read that story. Yeah. And that to me is very reassuring, that they didn't just accept it when they saw Jesus again. They just could not believe it. Yeah. Yeah. And there are times too, I think, in our lives when things happen that we just can't believe.
I mean, it links back. Thank you, Jill, because you've all spoken about faith in your lives, and thank you very much. But it is that there are those times when you recognize Jesus in your life and you can't really believe it, because you just feel that things are so bad, or so things are so, well, how can anything happen? And yet Jesus finds that way through for you, doesn't he? Mm. Yeah.
There's a quote, Tim, at the top of our Facebook page, which goes, "The light that shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it," from John 1. And for me, that's incredibly powerful when we talk about the darkness building up to the crucifixion, and then the light with the resurrection.
And then the light. Yes, that's right.
And Bryony's gonna shoot me for saying this, but I'm kind of banging the drum because reporters and newsreaders and people in our community keep talking about this light at the end of the tunnel. And I keep wanting to scream, don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. Find the light in the tunnel. No matter how dark or dull it is, find that light in the tunnel, because we can't keep waiting for the light. We need to learn to live in God's love now.
Thank you very much. Well, I could go on with the discussion for a lot longer, but I really do thank you, all of you, for joining in, all five of you. Thank you so much, and for being so honest about your personal situation and your feelings, and that it isn't all squeaky shiny, brand new, and you become a Christian and whoosh, off you go, and everything is absolutely marvelous. And I suppose our message today, we're talking to many of you who have faith and who have been people of faith for a long time, but also for those of you who faith is something new, and yet you're looking, you've been watching, you've been joining us along the way, and you're looking and wondering what it's about. I hope that our chat now has given you some idea of some church people, as you'll see, people from different backgrounds, ordinary people who have that faith and have been able to share it with us. So Carolyn, Mark and Bryony, Jill, Millie, thank you very much, all five of you. Thank you for being so honest and for bringing out such wonderful points. Thank you.